Sunday morning, it's quite early, and I wanted to do a quick vlog on a question that I'm asked all the time. And I thought Sunday morning, before I head out with my cameras and drone today, I thought I would try and answer it for you. And that is, Mike, why is it A, you're so passionate about tech docs, and B, how did you get into tech docs? So I'm going to try and answer those questions for you right now. Now, first and foremost, when I first started getting into tech docs, you have to remember I had no concept of what a technical manual was, what technical writing was, what technical communication was. I was a user of technical information, and I stumbled into tech docs and technical information way back in the late 80s, early 90s, where we were getting some vehicles ready for sandier climates. And I remembered from some training that I'd done that there was some components on these particular vehicles that users needed to pay particular attention to for a safety reason. And I couldn't understand why A, there was no mention of these in the technical manuals, and I didn't understand why these vital and critical, they were called telltale components, were corroded and were basically neglected on these old vehicles. So when I looked at the technical manuals, again, I had no idea what technical manuals were. I was looking at them, reading them, looking for a piece of information that just simply wasn't there. But in the back of my mind, I knew that it should have been there because it was covered on our learning and training course. So I took it upon myself to write some instructions, and I submitted this to something called the Kit magazine, and the Kit magazine published my guidance, and it's basically a magazine for the UK Ministry of Defence on how to maintain and manage and look after and operate safely and correctly equipment, but it's done in a way that makes it engaging for users to read. So rather than reading a technical manual, they're reading technical content, but in a cartoon way, which is a lot of inspiration for our magazine, is how do we make information accessible and engaging and useful. Anyway, so I submitted this particular article on these telltale rat's tails, they were called, on the MK's, MJ's vehicles, and it was published, and I received a letter of commendation or some kind of thank you, and a Kit magazine mug, which I still have to this day. It's stored in one of my man boxes somewhere in the garage, and that kind of introduced me to technical documentation and where I would go with technical documentation. Fast forward a number of years where I had retrained as an aircraft engineer, and I was using technical manuals to operate and maintain the helicopters of the British Army. I soon realized and quickly understood that the technical manuals for some of the aircraft that I was maintaining were not great. In fact, they contradicted each other in many places. And when I was learning how to become an aircraft engineer, there was a whole phase of training was how to navigate the technical manuals. And even back then, as a young guy, I was questioning, why is it we're learning how to navigate something that should be second nature? It should be something that we could pick up like a Haynes manual. Before joining the forces, I was maintaining my own car, I was changing brakes, I was doing all of those things from a Haynes manual, and it was usable, and I could do all of this kind of stuff without any training on how to use a technical manual. Now, so that was a kind of a second data point. I was looking at technical information, and I was starting to question why it was of a standard that I wouldn't expect of something that was critical in nature, and some of the thought processes behind how to put this information together. So again, fast forward another few years when I decided that my time in the military had basically come to an end. I had a young family, and it was time to think about my second stage of my career. And at the time, I was looking at joining something like, British Airways as an aircraft engineer or something along those lines. I was going to go and do my licenses and become qualified, which was kind of the second career path for most guys that I was in the forces with. And in fact, most of them are there today, which is where I get a lot of inspiration from for my articles, because I talk to them about their challenges around technical information. But one day I had a conversation with a guy. We were sat having a coffee in what was known as the GSE Bay at the time. I'd had to go in to pick something up, and he was reading something, and I was going, oh, that looks interesting, what's that? And he was telling me at the time he was retraining to become a technical author. And I was thinking, technical author, that's a term I'd never heard before. How and what is a technical author? So we spent about an hour talking about this, and I went away and I started thinking about, well, actually, so this is where all this technical information comes from. It's these guys called technical authors, technical communicators. So I started doing some research, and I started thinking about, how do I become a technical author? So I was due some training, and I found that at the time there was a course being run at Chippenham College on technical communication. So I thought, I'm going to go and do that. I want to do that. It was a 5-week course, and you learnt about technical publications and, writing and the style of writing and what's descriptive information, what's functional information. And I found it really engaging. I found it really useful, and I really, really enjoyed it. My first job, I then joined a major OEM where I was involved in the production of S1000D data modules on a major military platform. And I quickly started becoming more engaged with and more interested in production processes. What goes on behind the information? Why are we using SGML? Why are we using XML? What are the thought processes behind using S1000D? What are the thought processes behind using this software tool that keeps falling over? And I started challenging and questioning those kind of things. And I was quickly asked to join a technical publications company at the time, a company called Midwest Publications in Chippenham, and this is going back a few years now. And I was responsible for the implementation, or starting the implementation, of the first ever interactive manual on a commercial aircraft. And I started really getting into the mechanics of technical information, and I really found that I wanted to challenge the thought processes and the binary decisions that some people make on, we must use this, we must use that, we have to do it this way, we can only do it this way, which frustrates me because some people are so blinkered in the way that they think that I had to start challenging what was going on. And fast forward again a few years, and I started a company called Vectus, and Vectus was, we wanted to focus on the aerospace and defense technical publications experts, but we wanted to focus on software. So it was production software, and we had some really strange product names, which we thought obviously at the time was a great idea. And we were quickly acquired by a company called Inmedius. And if you know Inmedius, they're now part of CDG, and which is part of Boeing. But I always had in the back of my mind, when I first started learning about technical information, when I went back to Chippenham to do my learning and training, I always had this idea of techauth.com, which was going to be a network of technical communicators encouraging people how to develop best practice, how to come into the market, how to learn to become technical authors, how to become technical communicators. And that was something I had years ago, and I just never actioned it, just purely because it was something that by organically I'd ended up in this role within Inmedius, this role that I was supporting organizations worldwide for that company. But I decided about 4 or 5 years ago that I wanted to pick up the idea of techauth.com, which is now Tech Data World, and I wanted to do those things that I had the idea for all those years ago. And it's proven a tremendous success. And we have got so many ideas around this because I've got 20 odd years of idea and note taking that I want to put into what was then techauth.com, but is now Tech Data World. And I've got some great and fantastic ideas around what it is I want to do and how I want to do it. And, you know, we are enjoying putting together these videos and these vlogs, which we want to do more and more, probably not daily, but certainly we're going to do more and more through the week, maybe 2 or 3 a week. We're going to, even if they're 4 or 5 minute thoughts, we're going to put them up on our YouTube channel. So that's how I got into Tech Docs. I got into Tech Docs completely by accident, speaking to other people that had already started their journey into technical information, and some of them are doing really exceptionally well, and you know, they're quite senior communicators within their organization. And yeah, I'm just naturally inquisitive. I like to question why and how and if we should be doing things in a certain way. And then I like to have a wider view on the world of production versus deployment and creation versus management and those kind of things. I like to challenge those thought processes, and I like to keep abreast of all of the new and modern ways of producing information, because the way that we're producing information, which is going to be subject to many more vlogs over the next few weeks, is changing. And, you know, we either keep up with it or we fall by the wayside. So there's lots of content coming your way. So that's how I ended up in Tech Docs. That's how I ended up doing what I'm doing. That's why I'm passionate about what I'm doing, completely by accident.